Welcome back to our Hack IELTS Speaking course. By now you will have studied the Part 2 practice course workbooks and course videos or podcasts on describing people and describing objects. Now we are going to look at the final common Part 2 questions, which is on describing a holiday, journey, place, event or memorable experience you had. This includes mock test questions, vocabulary, phrases, tips and advice for describing places, events, journeys or telling a linear story. To begin with, let's look at some Part 1 questions first. Social network. 1. How often do you use social networking applications? 2. Why do you use social networking apps? 3. What are the disadvantages of social networking apps? 4. Do you think it is good to make friends online? Sky? 1. Do you like looking into the sky? Why? 2. Where is the most suitable place for sky watching? 3. Do you prefer to watch the sky in the daytime or at night? 4. Have you learned anything about stars or planets at school? 5. What's the sky looks like at night in your hometown? 6. Is it important to study stars? 7. What's your favorite star? Pets/animals. 1. What kind of wild animal do you like most? 2. What do you think of keeping animals in the zoo? 3. Do you have a pet? 4. Do you think it's a good thing for children to learn about animals? 5. What's your favorite animal? Why? 6. What kinds of animals as a pet do the people have in your country? 7. Do you think cities are suitable places for keeping a pet? 8. Should we teach children to protect animals?
For the Part 2 question, when describing a journey or an experience, or place you visited, it's important to use phrases for telling a linear story. This means using vocabulary that refers to an unfolding time sequence. Use sequencing discourse markers such as firstly, secondly, meanwhile. Before that, then, after we arrived. Learn vocabulary for describing holidays and traveling to destinations. Describing places, journeys, holidays, nature, rivers, lakes, cities, parks, countries, buildings. Now on to the Part 2 question practice. Firstly, we will go over an essential strategy to help you get a good mark for your Part 2 question, because the examiners are looking for specific vocabulary that you use to order your ideas and sentences, so instead of just using common discourse markers such as and or also, remember to diversify the discourse markers you use in your Part 2 question. After you introduce your topic, I am going to talk about, I will describe a journey, I will describe a memorable holiday or experience, I am going to talk about a time when I went to visit. Then to help build your story. The following discourse markers can be some of the following examples. Firstly. Secondly. Furthermore. Moreover. Finally. It takes some practice, but as long as you remember a few of these, it helps show the examiners you have more diverse discourse markers and connecting words in your vocabulary. Here are some typical Part 2 question examples. Many IELTS Part 2 questions ask you to describe holidays, trips, special occasions, or long journeys that you have experienced. For example, describe a special day out. Describe a happy experience. Describe a trip that you went on by public transport. Describe your perfect, or ideal, holiday. Part 2 cue card question. Describe a memorable holiday that you remember well. You should say where you went, who you went with, what you did there, and explain why you remember this holiday well. One of the most reliable methods to answer these kinds of questions is to tell a linear story. Means telling the story in order, step by step, or day by day. Simply put, start and end at the end. Luckily, in English, the subject in the past tense can change, but past tense verb doesn't. For example, I did, went, saw. You, he or she did, went, saw. This makes storytelling in the past a little bit easier than other languages. He, she, it did, went, saw. We did, went, saw. They did, went, saw. After that, the following day, before we left, then we saw. When we arrived, we went to the hotel room and freshened up and rested after our trip. Then we went to look for a nice restaurant by the beach. When we walked to the beach, we saw lots of interesting shops on the way. We took many picturesque and scenic photos and walked along the beach. The next day we went to visit some tourist attractions. Firstly, we went to the museum. After that we visited a beautiful park. Then we had lunch in a wonderful restaurant to try local cuisine. The food was delicious. The next day.
Time phrases are phrases you say at the beginning of a sentence in order to help the examiner to follow your story. The beginning, when I arrived. When I got there. The first thing I did was. Once we dropped our bags off. Once we checked in. The middle, after that. Later on. Afterwards. Then. The next day. Towards, the end, in the end. On our last day. Towards the end of the trip. Use these phrases, in the right order, and you can create an easy-to-follow, natural-sounding linear story about any experience.
Part 2 Practice Question. Describe a city you visited that made a deep impression on you. You should say, when you went there, who you went with, what you did there, and why you like this city. Here is an example IELTS Part 2 answer, applying the new techniques you have just learned. Describe a city you visited that you liked. I feel very grateful that I've been to many amazing cities all over the world, but I'd like to talk about a trip I took to Berlin last month. Firstly, I went there with my girlfriend, my sister and her husband. None of us had been there before actually, so we were really excited to check Berlin out. In particular, I wanted to learn more about the history of Germany, as well as sample all of the delicious food and beer I'd heard about. Secondly, when we arrived, the place we first visited was a Biergarten or beer garden, and we tried some of the local beer Germany is famous for. Of course, it was absolutely delicious, and the weather was great too. It was perfect for sitting outside, chilling out in the sun and catching up with my sister and her husband, who I hadn't seen for a while. After that, we decided to head to the Brandenburg Gate, which is another one of Berlin's main tourist hotspot attractions. We snapped a couple of photos, but there wasn't much to do in that area, and obviously it was a bit crowded. Afterwards we grabbed some lunch and spent the day wandering around the city. The second day, we went to the East Side Gallery, an open gallery on a long surviving stretch of the Berlin Wall. If I remember rightly, it's over 1 kilometer long, so we stayed there for an hour or two before we headed into the city center to try some more of the local cuisine. On our last day we were quite tired, so we opted to hang out in the park near our hotel and enjoy the weather. Even though we just sat there and played cards, moreover, it was actually the most enjoyable day of the whole trip, even if we got a little bit sunburnt. Overall, I would love to go back to Berlin, or another city in Germany one day.
Back to a speaking part 1 question and example answer. IELTS Speaking Part 1. What will you bring when you go out? Oh, this is such an interesting question to me. Being a girl means that being neat and beautiful is her top priority. Hence, whenever I go out, I often carry a black leather backpack which contains a comb, a pack of tissues, a bottle of water and a jacket that would protect me from the severe sunlight of the sun during a day. Here is another Part 2 practice question and example answer. Describe an unusual journey you went on. You should say who you went with, where you went, what it was like and how you felt about it. Everybody likes a vacation, but when it is not planned it can create trouble in people's lives. Firstly, I'm going to speak about one I went on with my friends last year. Secondly, there is a hill station which is a mountain town about 75 kilometers from my hometown. Although, my friends spontaneously decided to go there for a holiday. When we arrived, we tried to find a hotel to stay in as we couldn't book online. It was hard to find a place to stay as they were all full. Eventually, we did find one, but it was not clean. Furthermore, the next day, we visited some valleys and enjoyed some beautiful views. We also did a lot of mountain hiking during the trip. However, I was not enthusiastic about the mountain climbing. Aside from the beautiful scenery, all in all, I didn't really enjoy this trip. It's better to plan a journey so it runs more smoothly.
Here is another part 2 question on describing an event, with an example answer. Describe an event you went to. You should say what it was, where it was, who you went with and how it went. The event I would like to talk about was my best friend's surprise birthday celebration. His sister had organized at a special Indian restaurant. It happened about 6 months ago. Firstly, I met about 10 other people there at the restaurant and went with my girlfriend. After about half an hour of our arrival, my best friend's sister brought him there, telling him they would have a small dinner with just the family. He didn't know that we were all there waiting for him, some close friends and work colleagues as well as family, to celebrate his birthday. Most of them were people I knew. Secondly, when he walked in, it was so funny to see his face. He was genuinely shocked when we all jumped up and shouted surprise. After the excitement died down and we settled down a bit to order drinks and food, I gave my friend a present I had bought him and a birthday card. We ordered some delicious Indian cuisine. While we ate dinner, everyone chatted. Then after the main course, the waiter brought out a cake and we sang happy birthday. Afterwards, there was some live Indian music and everyone danced. It was a very special night and celebration. Then we all went home quite late. Moreover, this event was not only special for my best friend, but it was great for me too, to get together with old friends, as it is less and less these days that I see them or have time to spend with them. I had some interesting conversations. It was a good opportunity to catch up with my friends. Overall, it's been a while since I went out and reunited with people that are special to me. After working hard and not getting much time to socialize, the food was amazing and I went home feeling happy and content after a fantastic evening.
Question 3 Example questions. Part 3 questions. How do people celebrate public festivals? Do you think it's important to celebrate events? What national festivals do you celebrate in your country? Would you like to visit a special event or festival in another country? Why do we need to go on vacations? Why do some people prefer to stay at home during vacation periods? What are some problems of tourism on the environment?
Vocabulary: neat. Adjective: a neat person likes to keep themselves, their house and their possessions tidy and in good order. Priority: noun, something that is very important and must be dealt with before other things. Contain: verb, to have something inside or include something as a part. Tissue: noun, soft paper which is used for cleaning, especially your nose, and is thrown away after use, or a small rectangular piece of this. Severe: adjective, causing very great pain, difficulty, worry, damage, very serious consequences or impact. Practicing some phrases. Do you ever forget to take things with you when you go out? I'm kind of absent-minded, so I sometimes forget to bring my house keys. I tend to toss keys everywhere, so I have lost them several times, so much so that I may spend 10 minutes looking for them before being able to leave the house. I recently started putting my keys in a special place when I arrive home, so that it doesn't slip my mind anymore before I go out and I can remember to bring them with me. Let's review some of the phrases used in that example answer. Absent-minded, adjective, forgetful, slip somebody's memory/mind, to be forgotten. I forgot that I had a meeting with my partner yesterday. It completely slipped my mind. Some more vocabulary. It did cross my mind. If something crosses your mind, you suddenly think of it. It crossed my mind that she might be lying about her age. Bear in mind / keep something in mind. If you tell someone to bear something in mind or keep something in mind, you are reminding or warning them about something important which they should remember. There are a few general rules to bear in mind when selecting plants. Keep in mind that some places are more dangerous than others for women traveling alone. Some more useful vocabulary to sound more native when you speak. Food for thought. If something gives you food for thought, it makes you think very deeply about an issue. This Italian trip gave us all much food for thought. Have a memory like an elephant. To be very good at remembering things, my best friend has a memory like an elephant. She can easily remember everything she has read. Lose your train of thought if you forget what you were saying. For example, after a disturbance or interruption, you lose your train of thought. Now where was I? I'm afraid I've lost my train of thought. Miles away. If someone is miles away, they are completely unaware of what is happening or of what someone is saying, because they are thinking deeply about something else. They are miles away / you didn't hear a word I said, did you? You were miles away. A mind like a sieve. If you have a mind like a sieve or a brain like a sieve, you have a bad memory and often forget things. He's lost his keys again. He's got a mind like a sieve. Note, you can use brain instead of mind. I have a brain like a sieve. He lost his car keys but admitted that his brain was like a sieve. Now it's your turn to practice using the vocabulary. Talk about a time you forgot something important. Talk about a time you forgot to take something with you when you went out somewhere. Talk about a time you lost something.
So now at the end of this lesson you will have a lot of new vocabulary to practice with. We hope you enjoyed this class and found the vocabulary valuable. Until next time. We wish you every success and keep calm, and keep practicing speaking English. Well done for your hard work today. Meanwhile, do message Carlita Shaw, your British IELTS speaking coach. Carlita has over a decade of experience and coaching to help you reach your desired IELTS score. She also will help you with your writing as she is a professional writer. She can help give you valuable feedback, an accurate IELTS score, and help you identify your strengths and weaknesses. We look forward to seeing you again.